Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in today's second video. Happy Easter, thanks for tuning in on your Easter Sunday. So we've already done the summer analogues, part one of those. They're sort of specifically focusing on ENSO condition and the effects that might have on the summer. So check that out. It's here on the homepage. Just scroll down a little bit, and it's underneath the link as a video. Later on, it will be placed on the summer updates and forecast page as well. There'll be a written post that goes with it. So that'll be some time. Seeing everything's going to be a bit delayed today because A, it's Easter, and B, I've also got the competition to sort out. And talking of the competition, this is the prize that we're giving away. We're into the last day of the competition today. We're giving away the Climate Night Fishing Moon Phase clock. It's worth £50 because it can be bespoke. The headline retail price is £39.50, but if you have it bespoke, which means you can have your name or somebody else's name printed on the clock, then it's actually a prize that's worth £50. So this is what we're giving away. We've been plugging this all week in the videos. As I say, final day into the final hours actually of this competition. Now we'll be closing the competition at 5 o'clock this afternoon, so please get your entries in if you want to be in with a chance of winning this prize. Please get your entries in by 5 o'clock. We won't be able to take any more entries after 5 o'clock. We have to be quite hard about that. We can't take them after we close the competition because we have to get all of the names together and get them into a bag and then pull the name out. And that's what we're going to be doing at 7 o'clock this evening. One name will be pulled out of the bag at random. The name that's pulled out of the bag at random at 7 o'clock this evening in the video will be the winner of this moon phase clock. So to enter, all you have to do before 5 o'clock, please, is email your name and address to GWV@gmail.com. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything else whatsoever. Email your name and address to GWV@gmail.com. You'll be placed into the prize draw 7 o'clock this evening. Somebody is going to win the GWV moon phase clock. Some websites like to take your money for their updates. We actually like to give you prizes. So please get your name and address email to GWV@gmail.com. And yeah, somebody's going to be winning this evening. Good luck to everybody for doing that. Right, let's get on with the GWV Sunday roundup then, and we're going to start off with solar activity. So this is the solar disc on our side of this today from solarham.net, and we can see that we've got pretty much a spotless solar disc on our side of this today. So solar activity is officially at very low levels. That is how Solarham is reporting solar activity today. There may be a little sunspot somewhere there, but I've squinted quite hard to try and find it, and I can't see one, so I think pretty much we are spotless. This is the GWV spring season daily solar activity tracker graph. James Ackwill has been keeping this updated for us over the past few months. Big thanks to James for keeping this updated. Just sent this through last night, so this is bang up to date. As I said last week in the Sunday roundup, we had quite a big ramp up in activity right at the end of March into the start of April, this period just here, but very quickly we unravelled that. We've gone back to very low levels of sunspot activity, and that's where we are just there. Actually, the very latest orange spot just there shows that we were indeed spotless on the solar disk on our side of the disk yesterday. Because it was such a big ramp up in sunspot numbers that occurred though at the start of April, the trend lines are still moving upwards. So the thick green line and the thick red line, which are the trend lines, they are still lifting up. I would expect these very quickly now to start to trend back downwards again. We know we are within the declining phase of the solar cycle. We'll be reaching solar minimum sometime around 18 months, something like that. And when we get to solar minimum, we'll have several weeks, if not months, of no sunspots at all. Whilst we're travelling down into solar minimum, it's not a linear process. However, we do get these ramp-ups in activity. But it'll be interesting whether we ever see a spike in sunspot numbers as big as that one that occurred just there at the start of April. I'll be surprised if we get back to that level within the next couple of years. We may do, you can never rule anything out, but that was a big spike in activity. We hadn't seen sunspot numbers quite like that all the way back to last summer, actually, over here. So that was a big spike in activity, and I'll be surprised, you never rule anything out, be surprised if we see sunspot numbers going back to that sort of level within the next 2 or 3 years. It may actually be quite well into solar cycle 25, would you believe, the next solar cycle, before we get those kind of sunspot numbers again. Anyway, the very latest is that, yes, we are moving back down now into very low levels of sunspot activity, if not total spotless days. Excuse me. The reason we look at sunspots, by the way, is that there is a connection between low levels of solar activity, so a minimum level of sunspots, and an increased risk of northern blocking through the winter. And it's particularly true through the Atlantic and Europe. It's less the case for North America and Asia, but somehow, probably through the jet stream, through solar particles, and a reduction in solar particles producing a reduction in the strength of the jet stream, there is a connection for the Atlantic and for Europe with weakened sunspot numbers, so weakened solar activity, and an increased chance of northern blocking. Northern blocking, as I explain all the time in videos, is our route to cold weather, because you get high pressure over the pole, and then you push those cold temperatures out of the pole and down into Europe. And of course, that's the way that Europe gets cold weather. Talking of the Arctic and blocking, this is the Arctic Oscillation Observed and Forecast chart, and we are trending now with the GFS ensembles really quite negative with the Arctic Oscillation. So the black line here tells us where we've been with the Arctic Oscillation. The red line's at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to go. So we go right way back into winter with this. This is December over here, and you see through the vast majority of the winter, except for a short period through early February, through the vast majority of the winter, the Arctic Oscillation was trending positive. So it was a positive Arctic Oscillation winter. However, the red lines, and this is where we are right now, are actually neutral to weekly negative already, and the red lines are showing that the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to go really quite negative, and not just negative briefly, but negative for a pretty prolonged period throughout the forecast. Really, we see the Arctic Oscillation is predicted to be negative. That takes us to the end of April and the start of May, just over here. Now, remember, this is an index that's just reflecting the state of the atmosphere. It's not driving anything, it just tells you what the atmosphere is doing. So when the Arctic Oscillation is positive, you've generally got low pressure over the pole. Consequently, you're keeping the cold air bottled up in the pole, in the Arctic, and you're sort of enhancing, probably, normally, enhancing the westerlies through the mid-latitudes. When the Arctic Oscillation goes negative, like we see here, you've generally got high pressure over the pole, so you've got blocking, what I was talking about with the sunspot numbers. You've got blocking over the pole, high pressure is over the pole, and that is pushing out cold air down into the mid-latitude. Now, you can never guarantee where that cold air is being pushed out. Sometimes it'll be pushed out into America, sometimes it'll be pushed out into Asia. This time, it actually looks like quite a bit of it is going to be pushed out into Europe. I'll show you the temperature anomaly for the next week for Europe in a few minutes, and it does look really quite strikingly cold. And that is happening because we've got high pressure over the pole, and we're pushing that cold air out via the high pressure. So, real trend down in the Arctic Oscillation into negative territory. As I've explained in the videos lately as well, the Arctic Oscillation tends to move in blocks of around 3 or 4 months. So you tend to get around 4 months of positive Arctic Oscillation condition, and then you'll tend to get 3 or 4 months of negative Arctic Oscillation condition. This could well be the switch that's occurring here, could well be a fairly prolonged period, and this is going to take us, if it is 3 or 4 months of negative Arctic oscillation condition. Will take us through to the end of spring, even into the summer as well. And a negative Arctic oscillation in summer is not normally a very good sign at all, because you tend underneath the blocking to get low pressure, and that can produce quite a lot of miserable weather in the summer. This is the North Atlantic oscillation observed and forecast charts. Again, it's the same idea. Black line here tells us where the North Atlantic oscillation has been. Red lines where the GFS ensembles are forecasting North Atlantic oscillation to go. Remember, this is just an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere, doesn't drive anything. Same as with the Arctic oscillation throughout the winter, going back in December. Over here, the Arctic and the North Atlantic oscillations have been in positive territory. Now, unlike the Arctic oscillation, which is being forecast very strongly and definitively to go negative, not really the case with the North Atlantic oscillation. So it looks like the two indexes are fighting one another a little bit. Actually, we're staying positive with the North Atlantic oscillation for quite a while, if the forecast is right. We do see a trend downwards towards neutral, but not really a strong signal of going negative with the North Atlantic oscillation. So if there's one thing that might save us from getting too cold, it might be that the North Atlantic oscillation is trying to keep the westerlies going here. Or I should say the westerlies are trying to keep going, which of course is keeping the North Atlantic oscillation in a positive to neutral sort of position. Remember, it's always the weather that drives the index. It's not the index driving the weather. So it looks like we're going to have a bit of a fight there between what's happening in the Arctic and what's happening in the North Atlantic. But the trends, I think, are very much towards turning things quite cold across much of Europe. Actually, it's already pretty cold through northern and northeastern Europe. Turning things quite cold through the second half of April through much of Europe. The British Isles will get into that to some degree, but the worst of it, again, I'll show you the temperature anomaly in a moment, the worst of it will probably be to the north and the northeast of us. This is how things are looking in the oceans. We've got the Pacific and the Atlantic that we're specifically interested in, of course. So the Pacific is here, the Atlantic is just here. Pacific, first of all. So in terms of ENSO, we've still got warming trying to get going over in the eastern part of the equatorial Pacific, off the coast of Peru. This is the dying signal of the really weak La Nina that we had during the winter. That's going, and we'll actually be having a look at ENSO in detail on Saturday, this coming Saturday. So we'll see what the models are predicting in terms of whether we're going to get El Nino going through the summer. But the signal doesn't look like it's changed all that much over the past month, actually. But I'd say we'll look at that more next Saturday. But still trying to get the El Nino going in the eastern Pacific. Still not really seeing a response yet in the central, the western part of the equatorial Pacific. Further north, it's actually quite cold in the northern Pacific Ocean now, and that's one of the things that is a change on what happened a couple of years ago, where the Super Nino took off. We had that massive El Nino through the second half of 2015 and through the winter of 2015-2016. It was probably the strongest recorded El Nino on record and really spiked the temperature of the planet. I think this time, if we do get El Nino going, it probably won't be a massive event. It'll probably struggle to really take off, and the reason, well, one of the main reasons, will be that the northern Pacific Ocean is much colder this year compared to what it was a couple of years ago. Over in the Atlantic, looks like the tropics are warming a little bit actually over here. Through the tropical part of the Atlantic Ocean, getting quite warm there. Further north, temperatures are around or even a little bit cooler than average. So that warming in the tropics, we need to keep an eye on that, because it might give us some hurricanes as we get into the hurricane season, which begins around July and then carries on through the second half of the summer and into the autumn. This is how snow cover is looking across Eurasia. So most of Europe is now snow-free, although you notice that across Scandinavia we still have lots of snow, even down into southern parts of Norway and Sweden. There's quite a bit of snow around. That is telling us that it's still very cold up across Scandinavia, certainly colder than you would expect it to be at this time of year. We've lost the snow across the far west of Russia, but most of Siberia is still covered with snow. You expect that, of course. It doesn't really go, the snow across the Siberian plain, until around May and June. So this will all thaw out within the next couple of months, but for now, still quite a lot of snow there across many parts of Russia. But it's really Scandinavia that's quite unusually snowy, I think, for this late into the year. Right, this is how the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles are looking for the next 2 weeks. Same dealing with the temperature submersible. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average, and you'll notice we're more or less trending colder than average throughout. We do get a little bit of a increase in temperature there around the 21st, 22nd of April, but overall this chart does look really quite cool, you have to say, with temperatures generally coming out below average through much of the period. With precipitation, not really a lot going on. The dry spell continues. There are spikes there, so it does imply that with this cool air, we're going to see showers at times, but certainly nothing definitively wet, and certainly nothing that would break the deficit that we've had for several months now. It's been several months of continuously drier than average weather. There's no sign of anything there that will break that and turn us wetter than average. So expect the dry spell to continue through the rest of April, just that the temperatures will be significantly cooler than what we've had over the past few weeks. Right, this is that temperature anomaly I was talking about. Look how cold it is across most parts of Europe in the coming week. This is the temperature anomaly from the 16th through 24th of April. And except in Spain and Portugal, where even there the temperature anomaly is nothing to write home about. It's only a little bit warmer than average. But except from there, virtually the whole of Europe is colder than average. So from Ireland, the UK and France in the west, over to Russia and well into Russia, actually, well into central Russia, the temperature anomaly is significantly colder than average. It's been quite a while since we've seen such extensive cold temperature anomalies. So a really cool week coming up. There will be wintry conditions. We know there's still a lot of snow across Scandinavia. We might see the snow line pushing back into the far west of Russia, and it maybe even to eastern parts of Europe in the week ahead. So really quite cold indeed for the coming week. Precipitation anomalies for the next week shows that the dry spell goes on. So this is the precipitation anomaly from the 16th, 24th of April. UK, Ireland, France coming out very significantly drier than average. Over in the east and the northeast of Europe, it looks more unsettled. Some of that will be rain, some of it, with such cold temperature anomalies, will probably be snow there over in the east and the northeast of the Europe. Winter hanging on. This is how GFS is seeing things for Thursday. We've got high pressure ridging through the UK, going into central parts of Europe as well. After a cold start to the coming week, I think temperatures will lift up a little bit towards the end of the week, but look what happens as you get through to the weekend. High pressure still there on Friday, but on Saturday, that high pressure is pulling back out into the Atlantic again, and it's turning the winds back into the north. So another cold snap is developing here next weekend. 22nd, 23rd of April, winds are swinging back into the north. That could again bring wintry showers to the northeast of the country, and more significantly, I would have thought, bring in the risk of quite hard overnight frost, which is what we definitely don't want in the second half of April. Through into the following week, this is Monday 24th of April, high pressure is dominated, but always centred to our west, which is always keeping the wind flow coming from the north. That's how we look on day 10, which is Wednesday 26th of April. We've got northerly winds coming back again, so another little cold interlude or cold plunge is developing with a continued risk of night frost, and that's going to be the main problem, I think, over the coming nights. We will have some cold nights to come. This is the GFS temperature forecast for tomorrow morning, Monday morning, Bank Holiday Monday, where we've got frost being predicted for the north. Probably no frost down in the south tomorrow morning, but by the time we go through to Tuesday morning, yes, we've got a widespread frost here with temperatures below freezing pretty much across the whole country. And then again on Wednesday morning, we see another really quite significant and hard, maybe quite damaging frost for England and Wales, not as frosty for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Then we get a couple of less cold nights at the end of the week. As I say, temperatures probably recovering through Thursday and Friday, although Friday morning, for example, we still have a little bit of a frost there being predicted for southern parts of the country. But I think the second half of the week will be slightly milder. However, we get through into the weekend, and look at this, the frost is coming back again. So these are the minimum temperatures for Sunday morning in a week's time, where we've got another frost being predicted. And that continues then into the following week. This is the morning of Monday, 24th of April. Widespread frost again across the country. And these frosts will be quite damaging due, if nothing else, to the time of the year. Lots going on in the gardens and on the farms. So it isn't what we want to be seeing, really. And finally, East End, you have lots of high pressure dominating to the end of the week. Will be more prolonged dry weather. We saw it on the GFS ensembles and precipitation anomaly. Into next weekend, the winds are swinging into the north again, so another cold snap coming down from the north. This is Monday, 24th of April. Again, northerly winds are plunging down through the country, probably bringing wintry showers to the north and a renewed risk of night frost. And we go through to day 10, which is Wednesday, 26th of April, still with those winds coming from the north, so still pretty cold, even going up to the end of April. So after all that mild weather that we had through the winter and that we had through the early part of spring, very, very warm March, we've got to the second half of April, and we can't get rid of these northerly winds. We can't get rid of the frost risk, even going into the end of the month. As I always say, weather is constantly trying to find a way to surprise us and catch us out. And here it is, doing it yet again. Right, that's it for the GWV Weather Sunday roundup for this week. Don't forget to check out the summer analogues if you haven't done that yet. And of course, if you haven't entered the competition, please get your name and address emailed to GWV@gmail.com. By 5 o'clock tonight, at 7 o'clock, somebody is going to win the moon phase clock. So good luck to everybody that has entered. Right, that's all for now. Enjoy the rest of your Easter Sunday. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.